Hello and welcome to the Magic Mirror podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Khan the Trinket Mage. And with me is my co-host, 33 Elk.
Hello.
That was a very low energy hello.
I'm rather ill.
We also have our other co-host, Salubrious Snail.
Hello.
And special guest, all the way from the fishbowl. We yoinked him out of the fishbowl. Tomer.
I need water to live. Put me back.
We'll put you back after the podcast.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm very excited. And today's main topic is going to be about salt in EDH. We're going to talk about salty cards, salty strategies, etc., etc. And as always, we'll finish up with a few questions from the viewers. But before we get into all of that, I'd love to tell you about our sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by Laughing Dragon. We are going to tell you about 3 of their very cool upcoming events. LDXP Phoenix, which is from August 22nd to 24th, very soon, but you can still get tickets, you can still go. I plan to be there, so you'll be able to see me. We also have Command Fest Tacoma from October 31st to November 2nd, which I'm not going to be at, but Alex, you will, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be there. We played a bunch of Commander. It's going to be an awesome time.
Awesome. And lastly, LVO, the Las Vegas Open, which is traditionally one of the biggest events for tabletop gaming, specifically Warhammer, and that's happening in October 3rd to 5th. But if you're not a Warhammer gamer, that's totally fine. Laughing Dragon is bringing a huge amount of fun, exciting Magic the Gathering events to LVO this year. Each of these events has a 20k main event, which is huge. So if you're looking for big events like that, this is probably one of the best places to go. There's also a ton of Commander and other side events as well, which we'll both be playing at. So please click the link in the description below to check that out. This podcast is also sponsored by Card Castle, the easy way to sort your collection digitally. If you want to start scanning and sorting your cards today, click the link in the description below. You'll get 1 free month of premium access, in addition to just having a free account. Thank you very much to Card Castle for sponsoring the podcast. Salt in Commander, I think, is really interesting because Commander is the only format where this is even a relevant, I'll say, stat to apply to a card, right?
Yeah, almost assuredly. And it's mostly just because the format's very casual, right? Like the point of it is to just, get up with a couple of friends and play a game of Magic and just do some wacky stuff and not really necessarily compete per se, like other formats typically have you doing, right?
I don't know. Like whenever I play Standard, I like playing Control, like hardcore Control. And people rope me a lot on Arena. Maybe, I guess it depends on how competitive you're going. I guess maybe Arena's not hyper competitive, even in ranked. But
yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I used to play Hearthstone a long time ago, and man.
Bro, Priest Control, Mind Control, oh yeah, that's my shit.
Yes! Oh my gosh, I played so much Control Priest. And
I love that deck.
And the number of people after those games.
Oh yeah. So many emotes.
I played a lot of different decks because I was top 100 North America for a while. I no-lifed Hearthstone. It's one of my most embarrassing facts. And Control Priest, after a game, the number of times I would get like, your last opponent added you as a friend in the lower left-hand corner.
Yeah. And then if you're like, oh, I wonder why he wants to play some more games. It's like, no. It's just like an entire chat log of just all the profanities. Yeah.
I have never got more unhinged backlash than playing Hearthstone. So you know what? You actually are entirely correct. This is not just a Commander thing.
I mean, yeah, okay, that's fair. But like, if I'm playing a modern tournament or whatever, and somebody's like, I'm salty about your Lantern deck, I'll just scoop. It's like, I mean, okay, I'll move on to the tournament. Like, it's not as big a deal. Whereas if you're playing, casual Commander with friends, if somebody flips out and flips the table, that's kind of different because you were probably just going to play another game with the same people again and again,
And Commander, they would ask you probably like, hey, can you swap the deck out next time? Whereas in 1v1, that just doesn't happen really.
Yeah.
So in terms of more statistics, right, one of the best ways we have to categorize salt is the EDH Rec salt scores. So every year, EDH Rec does salt voting, and I like that they keep all the previous years. It's kind of fun. You can sort of look and see what was the saltiest card of 2019 when they started doing that all the way till 2024. They haven't done it for this year yet, I guess. And people vote on, if this card makes them salty, and then you have this like big data pool of players voting on that. Typically, for the most part, they're mostly stacks pieces. Stasis is usually almost at the top all the time. Winter Orb, Armageddon, Vorinclex, Nadu was there, but it got banned, so that's not super relevant right now. It's mostly things that like destroy lands, and then the One Ring and Turgid.
So I will say that in my experience looking at the Salt score stats, there is a strong bias toward cards that are more popular and stronger in general. So you'll get some very generic but powerful cards high up on the Salt score, and some niche but truly miserable cards pretty low on the Salt score. So I think in that way, there's a little bit of bias with it.
Yeah, I think like something like Winter. I don't remember the last time somebody threw a stasis on me, to be honest. But like, I can see like Thassa's Oracle, just like, okay, it's very, very powerful. Therefore, it probably shows up more, I guess, at random games that people don't like it as much. One Ring too is like, I don't think it's like necessarily salty for what it's doing. It's just like, oh my god, this card is so strong.
Yeah, the One Ring to me is like definitely an outlier here where like, yes, the card is very annoying, it's very powerful, but like more than half, 2.7 out of 4 is like pretty high for a salt card. Whereas something like I would think like a Scramble Verse, right, is way more annoying to resolve than a One Ring.
That's the salt. That is the saltiest card for me, is Scrambleverse, by the way. That's the only one where I'm like, I'm chill with most of these things on the salt score, but Scrambleverse, man, I have to really like you guys a lot to put up with that one.
I want to get back to individual cards because I also think Scrambleverse might be one of my least favorite cards of all time. I do think price somewhat factors in. Like if you go back to previous years, if I go to 2021, I believe Mana Crypt is much higher on the salt score than Sol Ring is by like a wide margin. Even though, you know, they're both functionally colorless, ubiquitous, fast mana pieces, but Mana Crypt is very expensive.
I think it's also like the codedness of it. Like if you think about the sort of decks Mana Crypt is played in, it's sweaty decks. It's either very sweaty casual decks or it's CEDH decks. Now, obviously not being played in any decks now, but, you know, say a year ago, that was where it was played. Whereas Sol Ring is played everywhere. There's not really that connotation to the decks that contain a Sol Ring.
I agree because it's only $1.
Yeah, but it's also in every precon. Everybody thinks.
Yeah, if Sol Ring was $100, I think it would be high on the salt score.
Yeah, you can't ignore price when it comes to the saltiness of a card. I feel like having a high price but high power is a way to really bump up a salt rating of a card, right?
For sure.
I think a major thing about salty cards as well, and I'll bring up a couple examples of this, is agency. And now I'm not talking agency in terms of like, oh, you're running a stacks piece, like something like, for instance, I don't think a Grand Abolisher, it might have a little bit of salt with it, but like for all intents and purposes, that is a creature you can kill, right? It's not necessarily like a thing like it's a good card, it's a good effect, but it's not necessarily locking someone out like a Winter Orb would be or an Armageddon. Another big thing is like Tempting Offer is a lot better of a thing to point out as like a salty design where through no fault of your own, but just because your opponents are bad at playing, you are going to lose this game because they took the tempting offer of Attempt with Discovery, right? Something like this.
Yeah, I think those are more fine.
Like similar, something like Rristic Study or any of those effects, especially because those effects tend to be very powerful in Commander. So you have the power combined with the fact that social dynamics can lead to some awkward situations where it feels like your opponents are screwing you over.
I kind of completely agree. I really dislike that this is a card where your other opponent who didn't play the Rristic Study can choose to make you lose the game to the Rristic Study. Because, you know, as much as, you know, scream about the removal and blah, 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 right, and all that crap, you know, about like Winter Orb or whatever, you know, if we're playing a bracket 4 game and you play Winter Orb, like, sure, whatever, you know, that's what we're doing, it's bracket 4. But like Rristic Study is just, I feel like I don't lose the game because I got outplayed. I got like underplayed by another player.
Yeah, Tomer, what are your thoughts on that? Did you have like a thought on that?
Rristic Study, I feel like I'm like Rristic Study's #1 hater. I've been drinking the haterade on this card for a very long time. And also it was like a big reason why we ended up getting it house banned on our weekly Commander show, Commander Clash. It was mostly because Seth, because everybody would be putting it in every single blue deck. And Seth's entire game plan is like, wow, I don't want to pay the one for this. I want to cast my spells. I'm going to draw some cards and cast some more spells. And it just like warped the game every single time that if somebody else had a Rristic Study and Seth was at the table, the Rristic Study player was basically guaranteed to win every single game. And man, that got me so mad.
I think this was said on your podcast, but you said it was you or Krim or one of you on the podcast was like, I'd be way happier with Rristic Study as a design if it just entered, sacrificed itself, and drew 10 cards.
Yeah, it would be more honest. But it would also be less annoying, right? Like,
yeah.
Like it's the 1-2 punch. Rristic Study just draws you a stupid amount of cards for 3 mana, staggered over time, which is even better because then you don't have to like worry about discarding to hand size and stuff. But then also it's just like every single time, every single spell is cast, you have to say, you're gonna play the 1, you're gonna play the 1, you're gonna play the 1. And it's just like, man, it's just so, it's like it's just an annoying, it's an overpowered card, but also an annoying card. It's like the 1-2 punch. Man, I don't like Rristic.
I think an underrated thing people don't consider about it is that it also makes tables with different power levels of decks. It ups the tension of that, because if somebody plays a Rristic Study, you know, the person with the second best deck at the table or the best deck at the table might go, oh yeah, I'm paying the 1 every time. And then the person who brought their pile of jank is going to fall behind if they pay the 1 every time, so they don't. And then suddenly, you know, you got the power gamer at the table being like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you screwing this over for me?
Yeah, and then also it's just like different decks fold to Sphere of Resistance differently, right? Like some decks are just like, yeah, I'm playing a 9-drop anyway, I'll pay 10 instead.
Yeah.
And then other decks are storming off, and that's the deck that the Sphere of Resistance hits the most, and that's less likely to pay for the tax, right?
That's why I always find it kind of like I have minimal experience on CDH, and I actually really want to talk to like the play to win guys about it. But whenever I watch like CDH games, I watch play to win a lot. I do notice that if a Rristic Study or a Mystic Remora goes on the battlefield, people just don't even really consider paying for it at all, because I guess because everybody's trying to go stormy. But I always wonder, it's just like, if somebody goes turn 1 Mystic Remora, doesn't have any fast mana, nothing, and then the rest of the table just doesn't cast non-creature spells for a turn, wouldn't that just like nullify the Mystic Remora at the table? Like, couldn't they just
You
do it?
are correct.
But then nobody does it. Like, I've seen so many games, and I don't think I've seen a single CDH game on Play to Win or whatever that like people are just like, so we're just not going to play into the Mystic Remora turn 1 with no additional mana on the battlefield, right? And we were just like, that's not even a consideration.
I don't know. So I play a mono blue deck in CDH. It's not really like a meta deck or whatever. It's just my favorite deck ever.
Jace.
Yes. And Mystic Remora and Rristic Study are some of the ways that I can win games because of the power of those cards by themselves. Turn 1 Rristic Study is like so game winning. But I have had games where people actually do the I'll say smart thing. It obviously depends on your hand and the situation, blah, 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 blah. Where I go turn 1 Mystic Remora, no additional mana, and people just go, all right, here's my mana dork, don't play my Mox Diamond. Okay, here's my, thing, don't do this, right? And then I have to go, I guess I tap the 1 and then like wait again, and I'm so off tempo, it like is really devastating. I don't know why more players don't do that.
I don't know. That's amazing though that it actually happens. But I want to talk to CDH peoples about it because it's like I've never seen it.
It doesn't always happen.
Tomer's approaching this with the same interest as like looking at a zoo exhibit.
I have had people go, hey, I'll just dump all my fast mana into the Mystic Remora and then I win the game. So like,
well, it's like I know like the play to win boys are really smart. They bring people who play a lot, like tournament grinders and stuff. So maybe they have insights that I don't know of. But like I look at it as an outsider, as like the guy mulled to 5, played a single land, and Mystic Remora go. It's like, shouldn't you just not cast non-creatures?
All right, everyone, let's starve this dude to death.
Yes. Is that just like super easy? I don't know. Looks straightforward to me, but maybe I'm missing something. I don't know.
A go-go gadget self-induced famine. Here we go. we are going into the mud pits together. I like that play a lot. I used to watch a lot of Play to Win, mostly about a year or so ago though. So we were still in a dockside sort of meta. So I'm not used to this new grindier format as it is.
It's pretty jank. I hope Rristic Study's banned. I want to change my answer from earlier. I don't think Scrambleverse is my least favorite card. It might actually be Rristic Study.
Yeah, I definitely hate Rristic Study, and I definitely think it should be banned. I think Scrambleverse is more of a theoretical salty card because I don't really see it ever, luckily.
Yeah.
I just know that there's some guy out there that's like, here's my 1000-Year Storm Scrambleverse deck. We're going to sit here for 50 minutes and try to resolve this. And it's just like, no.
That's why I don't like Scrambleverse. Here's the thing, is for me, there's no individually salty card. It's always in context.
Yeah.
So if you're playing Scrambleverse and then you follow up with a card like brand, so you can yoink all your permanents back, and it's just like a big theft spell, hell yeah. More power to you. But then I run into the person who's like, Scrambleverse fork copied the Scrambleverse. It's like, you're not progressing towards a win intentionally. You're intentionally wasting time.
Yeah.
That's the worst. Like, that is one of the very few times I've salty.
But then they always say like, isn't this cool? Isn't this quirky and fun? It's like, no, you're just staxing the table for no reason, to no gain of your own.
It's not even staxing the table. If they were playing an actual like real stacks deck, I would be fine with that. This is just like a time waster.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that people are frustrated with, and what comes out of like what makes these salty cards so salty, is feeling like your time is wasted and you have no agency in that matter. So I think you actually posted recently, Tomer, about Insurrection, and I think
I was looking at that earlier today.
I think that post is actually really apt in the salt discussion, because I think Insurrection is a card that is boring to win the game with, but it's not necessarily salt-inducing per se.
No.
Because it ends the game.
Yeah.
Unlike, let's say, casting an Armageddon on an empty board, right? Whereas Armageddon could be used in a way where if you have a winning board state, right, you can blow up everyone's lands and then you win.
Yeah.
Like, imagine going Winds of Abandon into Armageddon into I only have a board and you guys have nothing. Like, that's like actually a healthy play pattern for the card, but you can't police how these cards are played. And that's the big issue with them.
I think a lot of this, like the salt, is usually at the perspective, like if you think of like a casual player, they're usually not playing as much as us, number one. They usually play like maybe once a month, you know? Especially if like they're on their older side, like 30 plus, you know, they might have like
kids,
you know, they have one night on the weekend and maybe 1 month on the week, one time per month they get to play Commander. They have like disposable income. So they built a brand new deck. They're very excited to see it do its thing one time during the night. That'd make them very happy. And then like somebody like just drops down like a Winter Orb or something like that, and their deck just does nothing. But it's not like the game ends. Like Insurrection, game ends. Okay, so we'll shuffle up, we'll try again. This one is like, the game does not end, but we're stuck here.
But it ends.
Yeah, I don't get to see my deck do anything, but also the game will not resolve. You know, we're stuck here for another hour at least. And that, I think that is the biggest crime to a casual Commander night, is like you have one night per month, you know, to see your deck do something. And if you just drag the game along and that deck doesn't get to do anything, that's the greatest sin. I think that's highly associated with Salt.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see how different players find different things salty, because there are definitely the people who play less where you very clearly see that they have a strong aversion to some of these kind of time waster feeling cards, whereas the people who play more might not care so much, you know. Especially, I think that's especially true with something like Stacks, where it's not strictly wasting anybody's time. Like I think there are other cards like a Chaos deck where truly it feels like somebody is not playing the game, and that's going to be annoying to most people. But when it's something like Stacks, yeah, Chaos I think is annoying to everybody because it's going to feel like a time waster regardless. Like, it's just somebody who doesn't really want to play the game of Commander, whereas Stacks is at least nominally playing the game. It's just playing the game in a way that some people might find frustrating.
I totally agree with them.
I think like we should probably move on from Stacks though, to be honest, because like, you know, blah blah blah, you don't like Stacks, yada yada yada. That's fine, but like, unless we're playing bracket 4, like, I don't know how many people are like, yes, I'm playing Yackle Hops in my pre-con or whatever, you know? Like, I don't think that you actually run into that many Stacks effects that often in the average game. I mean, you said it at the start. When was the last time you saw a Stasis, Tomer, you know?
Yeah, I think the top of the salts, like, there are ones that are very popular. Like, I see the One Ring a lot. In most of my games, I would say, actually. Thank you, Seth, for putting it in literally every single one of his decks. Rristic Study, I don't see that much, thank God. It's actually, okay, these are some interesting ones. Cyclonic Rift. Do people find this still salty? I'm actually not sure.
So here's the thing. I build all of my decks to be able to survive Cyclonic Rift and Farewell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really like creature decks is the main thing. So I build all of my white decks with phasing out protection and all my blue creature decks with counter spells. And I feel like if you have to warp your deck to that level around a possibility that someone put a card in their deck so you don't lose the game, it's a little bit of a feels bad. Because I wish Selfless Spirit was just good enough. I wish I could run, your temple is under attack, right? This super budget, 2 and a white, instant speed, your board gets indestructible. But you just can't against Farewell. You can't against Cyclonic Rift, right? Like I do feel like these cards have a definite position at the Salt Talk table, just because of how like unanswerable they are for certain colors to deal with, right? Like you have to be white or blue to really actually counteract these cards.
It also depends on what level I'm playing at. Like if I'm playing at a high level pod, I don't care about a Psych Rift. Like obviously it's a good card there. Like I'm going to be set back by it, but it doesn't bother me. Whereas if I'm in, if I'm playing kind of my cheap little budget, lower bracket 3 or bracket 2 deck, I guess you're not going to see it in bracket 2 anymore. But in that case, it feels a little bit more frustrating, I suppose.
I never found it salty, to be honest, but I do understand that like it is very hard to counteract. There's very few clean answers, and like most colors just don't have answers to them. But I don't know. I guess I personally never felt it very salt-inducing.
Yeah, I don't find them salty myself per se, but I would see why people are salty about them. And the reason why I don't find them salty myself is because I've warped all of my decks around them. Like all of my decks have options against Cyclonic Rift and Farewell. But you can't really do that at bracket 2 because you don't have Teferi's protection. You have Guardian of Faith, Ghostway, I guess. Like there's so few options to answer an issue like this. And if you're in Golgari, if you're in Rakdos, good luck. You have like Tybalt's Trickery. That's it.
I feel like it's also Cyclonic Rift is a gotcha card, and I think people are very like highly adverse to that. So like Force of Will is a higher assault card. I don't think in casual Commander, Force of Will is actually like nearly as good as it is in, CEDH, because in CEDH you might have to answer a turn 1 Rristic Study. So going 2 cards down to counter your opponent's turn 1 Rristic Study makes sense because they'll draw a billion cards and win the game. In casual EDH, if there's like less combos going on, especially less fast combos and fast wins, it's more likely you'll have mana later in the game that you can just hold up for like a counterspell that doesn't 2-for-1 yourself. And it's just not as powerful. But it's a gotcha because they were tapped out and they got you with it, And I think that also it's expensive, I guess. But like I feel like that pushes it up, and Cyclonic Rift is a really big gotcha.
Yeah, I feel like the worst gotcha to me, this is a card that legitimately will still get me a little irk sometimes, is Deflecting Swat. I think it's easily the best free spell, bar none.
Wow, over Fierce Guardianship?
I think it's better than Fierce Guardianship because it inherently creates card advantage when you use it on a removal spell. Because I counter your removal spell, that's a 1-for-1 exchange, versus I Deflecting Swat your Swords to Plowshares and makes you exile your own thing, or any number of other like modes that Deflecting Swat has. Have you ever stolen Time Warp? That is depressing. I got my worst fears Deflecting Swatted. Fierce Guardianship doesn't do that. That's a bummer.
Yeah, Deflecting Swat's pretty good.
For me, Fierce Guardianship is like, oh, okay, you countered my spell, whatever. I got my spell counter. That sucks. I don't like it as a design. I'm not trying to defend Fierce Guardianship, but I think Deflecting Swat creates a lot more irksome moments when you go like, okay, great, I'm going to cast my charm, target myself, draw 2 cards, and then they just go, no, I'm going to draw 2 cards. That's worse than getting my spell countered. And then even worse, like I said, if it's a removal spell and you just turn my removal on me for free.
That's interesting. I mean, I think Deflecting Swat's very good, but I feel like Fierce is much, much stronger just because Deflecting Swat, when it's really, when it's applicable, it's very, very powerful. But Fierce just has that generalist usage where just like, I have a lethal army. You try to board wipe. I can Fierce it. I can't Deflecting Swat it, but I could definitely Fierce it. Or I'm about to combo off. Like I play a spell that's going to win me the game and you try to counter it and I just Fierce it back. Like I guess Deflecting Swat could do that too. But there's more.
Yeah, I think Fierce is better as a card. It's just not as salty, right?
So I'm curious, what makes free spells salty? And I definitely have my answer to this. I think it's that people like to kind of strategize around the information they have, and they like to feel safe in certain instances, like if an opponent is tapped out, and that kind of breaks that. But I'm curious if there's more to it, because it seems like free spells have this kind of very prominent place as a thing that bothers people.
I want to push back on that a little bit. Wait, isn't Obscuring Haze like not a high salt card?
It's the most narrow of the bunch.
This one goes against what I said earlier about gotcha cards, but it is still a gotcha card as it is a fog, and it's 0 mana, but it's not high on the salt score at all, which I think is kind of interesting.
I think people just don't play it.
I guess within a category of card, I'm sure there are cards that wouldn't be as powerful. But when somebody says, I find free spells too powerful. They're not thinking about obscuring haze. Come on, they're thinking about free
Okay,
counter
but-
spells. They're thinking about deflecting SWAT.
No, but what you're saying is true here though, because we're just thinking about the good ones. We're thinking about like deflecting SWAT and fierce guardianship and force of will. But like, is anybody actually salty over submerge or whatever that red spell is that lets you sacrifice 2 mountains to deal damage? Like
Fire Blast. Yeah.
Fire Blast, thank you,
Classic.
Popper All-Star.
Yeah. Legacy All-Star too. Very good in Legacy.
Just good card.
Yeah.
I don't think free spells are salty inherently. I think it's expensive, powerful card is salty.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't find Force of Will that salty. And I think part of my appreciation for Force of Will is just I love Legacy a lot. So once you play these 60 card formats where Force of Will is actually a healthy part of the system, you learn to appreciate pitch spells a little bit more. Like I like Solitude. I like Subtlety. I like pitch cards. They're kind of cool to defeat that play draw feels bad because they're very good on the draw. That's the big thing with Force of Will. That's the big thing with Subtlety and all these other cards, which is like if you're on the draw, you have some hope against your opponent because you can just interact with them. But, and this is a major thing, turn order is not that big in Commander as it is in 60 card. If you're right after the control player or right before the control player, right, then it sucks, of course. But what I'm referring to is like going second or third. Going fourth sucks, but going second or third isn't like as impactful to your win rate in Commander as it is in 60 card, where these are actually kind of healthy designs, right?
I agree. I also just think like fierce, like I think I've never had an issue with force for the same reason. I also think pitch spells have like a significant drawback to them. Like if Legacy wasn't so fast, then I don't think Force of Will would be such a dominant card. It's like you need to
Agreed.
have force or else you might just lose before you have a turn sometimes, you know, like this is a requirement to play the game. Whereas for Fierce Guardianship kind of irks me in that it's essentially a Force of Will that you don't have to go down a card to cast. And
Yes,
the
that's a
downside
major
is
issue.
you have your commander, which is what you probably have on the battlefield anyway, because it's the one card that you always have access to. So like I did not like the design of them when they came out. I still don't like them. I just feel like it's a little bit too easy to get that much power. And I don't have the same bad feeling on like obscuring haze because it's an incredibly narrow effect. Like fogs are still very, very powerful, but the times that they pop up are less prevalent. Like they're more rare. Whereas Fierce Guardianship, it just feels like if I have an advantage and I'm winning the game, then Fierce just puts me even more ahead if it's in my hands. I don't know. I don't like that.
So I feel like this is almost like making me like Khan's argument more of that the problem is the power level, not necessarily anything else about the card.
It's
that,
pretty
you know,
sweaty.
It's a problem the same way that the One Ring is a problem, the same way that Rristic Study is a problem, the same that any of these other powerful cards that give you advantage too easily are a problem.
Yeah, I think part of what I like about Force of Will, by the way, is that a lot of its drawback is settled in deck building and not in play. So when you get Force of Willed in a game of Magic, you're not seeing your opponent's hand, the fact that they only had the one blue card to pitch that they really didn't want to get rid of. You didn't see the hours of deck building that went into the blue count, right? Oh, I chose this card over this card because it's a blue card and it pitches to Force of Will, right? So like, you're not seeing all these other things, and the same thing goes for white, right? Like, oh, I'm not on Generous Gift in my Celestia deck, or rather, I'm not on Beast Within in my Celestia deck, and I'm on Generous Gift instead because I need to up my white count for, you know, Solitude, right? Or something like that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of these deck building restrictions that come with these pitch cards that you don't see in game because the deck hums after it's built. And the Force of Will is basically free because of the deck building restriction that went into it.
Yep. No,
right?
Not a single person has ever been salty about when I disenchant something with Abolish and pitch a planes to it. Everybody's like, what the hell is that card? And then they get to look it over and they're like, sick. And I'm like, it works with flame tax. It's so cool.
Yeah. And all this reason is why I find Force of Will way less salty than something like a Fierce Guardianship, right? Which is just like a 1-for-1 exchange with not a giant hoop to jump through.
Yeah.
Or with a giant hoop to jump through because it's easier.
It's just like the power.
Now, here's an interesting thing is if cards like the One Ring, Fierce Guardianship, even Cyclonic Rift or whatever, right? If let's use One Ring as an example, I think this is the most one-to-one comparison. If it was a $1 card like Soul Ring and everybody just had one, it was in every pre-con, do you think it would be a high salt?
Yes, because I mean, I think Soul Ring has plenty of detractors and it only produces mana. So I think, if there was a kind of Soul Ring equivalent card like the One Ring that did all this other stuff as well, I think it would have, more detractors than Sol Ring does. And Sol Ring already has some detractors. Now, do I think it would have the kind of hate that it gets now? Probably not, but definitely more than Sol Ring.
I would argue it would be saltier. I would argue it would be
Yeah.
saltier. Like, yes, I think the fact that like a card is very expensive and also very good can contribute to salt. But the One Ring, as someone who sees it a lot, can tell you, if everybody had the One Ring, like if it was like $1 and everybody just put it in all their decks, it would get very tiresome very quickly. Like just like, yeah, I cast the One Ring. You can't hit me for a full turn. Tee hee hee. I was just like, it gets tiresome very quickly, I think. That's the problem with it.
Is it that much of a hot take to say if an artifact would ever see as much play as Sol Ring does right now because of its availability and power, that it would be banned from the format?
I don't think it's a hot take. If Sol Ring if the One Ring was $1, I feel like people would be calling for it to be banned. It is an incredibly powerful and quite lame card, and I am in agreement with Tomer and Alex that it would still be pretty high salt even if it was $1.
I do have tech for your viewers though. Isengard Unleashed, Flaring Pain, Insult to Injury. Just play red, and then you can just punish all the One Ring players, and it feels great.
Oh yeah,
It feels
damage
so good.
prevention.
Love Isengard Unleashed.
Basically, all my decks have been red lately, just so I can really just anytime like the Goldfish crew plays the One Ring, I'm like, yes, tap out. You feel so safe, great, wonderful, and then just punish.
We got even more. We got a Sunspine Lynx. I've always loved Leyline of
Yeah,
Punishment.
that card's so good.
I love Leyline of Punishment. And then, of course, my big bad himself, Questing Beast. I love him.
I haven't tried the Questing Beast in a while. I'd like to try it again.
We also just got in the new one, the Frenzied Baloth, the 2-mana green.
Not
Creature
enough
spells
text.
can't be countered.
Not enough text.
Damage can be prevented.
I need more text on it before I play that.
Give me more Questing Beast. I want more Questing Beast.
I have a question. If you were to look at the top salt cards on EDH Rec as you're scrolling through there, is there anything that you think is weird or an anomaly, or you're like, I don't get why it's up there?
I have one.
What is it?
Divine Intervention. So it's a 8-mana enchantment. Put 2 counters on this card. Remove a counter during your upkeep. When you remove the last counter from Divine Intervention, the game is over and it's considered a draw. So we were talking about stuff that like slows the game down, doesn't end it, might be too powerful. And this kind of like feels like an anomaly here because it's not too powerful. It doesn't slow anybody's game down at all. It ends the game even. How nice. I mean, yeah, it's high on the salt scale. That's before like Flash Fires, Boil, and Eureka. Interesting.
I think that very comparable card I would say is World Fire, or the like 9-mana Kamigawa one that just got unbanned. These are cards that are very hard to pull off, or at least they're very mana expensive, and they negate all of the gameplay that came before them. It's obviously more clear when you just destroy everything and get rid of everybody's current hands, but I think it's the same general concept with something like Divine Intervention. Like you negate all gameplay that came before it, and that's what people find frustrating. It's that agency being taken away.
I am looking at a lot of these cards. I'm like, I disagree with this one and this one and this one. And then I realize it's because I run these cards in my decks.
Elk is the problem.
Yeah, Mindslaver, Emrakul, Elish Norn. I'm like, Coma. Yep, these are all in my decks in different lists. At least one of them in each of my decks. Yeah, I don't think taking control of someone's turn is that salty. I think it's really funny.
I agree, honestly. I think it's kind of funny.
I think I agree with Emrakul the most just because it is a cast trigger. It's very hard to interact with.
Yeah, you got, what's the 4-mana one that exiles the stack? Summary Dismissal. Yeah.
Yeah, or you can do Whirlwind Denial.
I feel like for me, one that like I've never understood people's frustration with is Shieldrid of the Apocalypse. I remember the first time I played against this card, they had it in the command zone and I was like, oh, perfect. I'll get to see what all the hubbub is about. They're playing the Shieldrid deck. And they went land, Jeweled Lotus, turn 1 Shieldrid, and that player did nothing for the rest of the game. They were like, here's my Teferi's puzzle box, and then I removed it. And then I was like, okay. And then we just like continued on with our lives, and it drained people, and it got jump blocked. And it just did nothing. It was so irrelevant. It was crazy. I've just never seen the card do anything. I don't know why. I mean, it's an expensive card, I guess, but I don't know why people are mad at it.
I can kind of explain it because I think that's the most common application of this card is not actually running it as a commander, but rather putting it in wheel decks and then it's a very, very effective finisher there. But then also by itself, I know people who are addicted to card draw, where they'll just like, instead of like actually winning the game, they would rather like spend 8 mana, Seagate, Restoration, and Pass, draw 16 cards. And that is considered winning the game for them. The dopamine they get from drawing cards. And then they see this and it's like, well, if I keep drawing cards, I will die. And then if I die, I'm not allowed to draw any more cards. And that makes them mad.
Oh, God.
That makes them very mad.
The first thing you said, like, yeah, I get it. It's like fine.
That's Seth and Phil, by the way.
It's fine in a wheel deck. I understand that. But I don't know, like lots of things deal damage to you with wheels. It's not that different. It's better than some of the other ones, but it's not that different. The second example is definitely just their fault. Like draw into removal. I don't know. If you're drawing 10 cards, remove it.
I think in my stacks video, I gave the example of a stacks piece taking away somebody's fidget toy as compared to just like a generic win con. I think that's very applicable here. Like it confiscates your, meaningless bullshit, even if it doesn't, change whether you were going to win or not, really, compared to other things.
Green players out there, if you love drawing 20 off your Merit Lage like I do, off your Rishkar's expertise, Abundance, it completely neuters Shieldrid and Orcish Bowmaster because it replaces all the drawing, and you never deck yourself either. It's really funny.
Or attack with the 2020, just kill the Shieldrid player.
That's true.
What are they going to do?
But I want to draw another 20.
Yeah.
Well, I'll berserk them and then draw 40. It's okay.
I could spend mana on this removal spell, or I could spend that mana to draw more cards, and maybe I'll find something else. So one funny story, I remember distinctly, there was like a problem. There was some problem permanent that was like about to win the game, and Seth was playing Garth One Eye, which can like tutor, like it could tap and make like one of these old cards like Regrowth, Black Lotus, and stuff like that. And he had like a removal spell for the problem that was about to kill him and in his graveyard, and he could regrowth it and cast it on the same turn. And so he regrowth and he got a card draw spell in his graveyard and he drew cards and he's like, maybe I could find an answer in the cards I drew. He did it and we all died. That was settled the game.
That's the most Seth story I think I've ever heard.
And so that's why Shieldrid is hated, I believe. It's like, it puts people on a clock to stop drawing cards.
I could get the guaranteed answer, or guys, hear me out. I could stock up and get an extra card and an answer.
It was so peak Seth. It was amazing.
Okay, I have a question. Why Coma Cosmos Serpent? This is a little bit further down the list, but like it just looks like it looks like a big dumb idiot to me. Like what's the problem?
I think this is residual like trauma response from when Coma was actually an issue. There's just so many ways to exile Coma now. If you let a Coma get out of control, it's probably time for the game to end. This is like a 9-year-old clinging to life support. Like it's okay. It's life well lived. This game is over. It's okay. It's like turn 9 or so. We're good. It's all right.
Nah. You're wrong. I know the answer, and it's not Coma. It's because of Coma decks. They're Simic. Yeah. It's easy baby mode. It's unbeatable. It's green. They have infinite mana. You remove the Coma, they just play it again.
You can't counter it.
Infinite mana. Yeah, exactly. So it's I think it's more Simic piles are really busted, and Coma is one of the scariest Simic piles out there because it actually closes out games really quickly as opposed to AC that just draws cards. And I think that's it's misdirected hatred towards the Simic pile.
I think
I like that theory a lot.
That's the difference between like so for newer players, if they like somebody brings a Simic deck to the table that's a value pile, if they see like a Tatyova, it's very hard for newer players to threat assess how powerful card draw is. So if they see a Tatyova player who's just like ramping and then drawing like 5 cards extra per turn, it doesn't seem as threatening as like instead of Tatyova as your commander, you just replace it with Coma, and then Coma comes out on turn 5 or 4 or whatever, and the Coma is a very clear threat to newer players, and I think that's the difference. Even though Tatyova is probably arguably AC, definitely much scarier than a Coma deck, I would say, if AC is in the command zone. But for a newer player, like you don't know yet how powerful drawing 5 extra cards every single turn is, whereas Lacoma is like, yes, it's now 15 power on the board, and it can also give itself indestructible, by the way.
Yeah, I run a Sea Monsters deck, by the way. It's helmed by Kinesos, Priest of Thassa, who gets to just like spit Sea Monsters out of the top of the deck. You look at the top and then you put a Sea Monster to play if it's there. And I run a bunch of Brainstorm effects, and of course I run Coma because it's one of the best serpents. But the thing is actually, the more I've played the deck, the more I realize that Koma isn't actually the best Serpent at all, really. The impact he has on the game versus the like culture hating Koma that just makes them want to explode you is very much like 3-1, right? Like very low impact on the game for the amount of hatred it draws just because of the culture of the card. I think personally, the best sea monster in the deck is spawning Kraken, which is just like this Kraken that hits you and makes a 9/9. And then whenever any other Kraken hits you, it does the same. So it's exponential Krakens. And then you hold up counter spells. Like it's broken. It's very good, but no one salts off about that one. It's always about the Koma in the deck.
I mean, people are so much less salty if it's a creature that turns sideways than anything else, which I do think is kind of funny because there are a lot of really powerful creature things out there, and then they're just like, oh, they're attacking with creatures, that's fine. But like, whoa, was that a instant sorcery? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, original Koma has that issue too, where you just like don't turn the creature sideways until you overrun either. You like sack the Leviathans to tap down your opposing objects or make them indestructible. Like, I don't know if Koma like really attacks too frequently until it's reached a critical snowball, you know?
Really? I feel like I get attacked and I just hold up the ability to give it indestructible.
Maybe if your board's small enough, but like if there's like a favorable block.
I mean, I don't play creatures, so like.
I don't know. I feel like I swing with Koma significantly less than I do with other objects.
I want to bring up a card that I think is salty because I feel like maybe people don't quite know exactly how it works, but I think it's kind of funny. Are you familiar with the card Bend or Break? It is 3 and a red for a sorcery. Each player separates all all non-token lands they control into 2 piles. For each player, 1 pile is chosen by one of their opponents, and you destroy all the lands in the chosen piles, and the others get tapped. So you split your lands into 2 piles, and then somebody picks one, and the others get destroyed. Your opponent that you choose for Bend or Break doesn't have to be the person who cast Bend or Break. So if I cast it, then Alex can say to Tomer, hey, I'm going to put all my lands in 1 pile, you put all your lands in your pile, and then we'll just pick each other's, and then nobody loses any lands. If you can politics with your other people, it doesn't actually do anything.
That's interesting.
This card.
The table can unionize.
I mean, if there's like a green land player, you can be like, guys, I have an answer. Hear me out.
True. If you have a specific player in mind.
I think this is a funny card.
It's a really interesting card. Yeah. And of course, I mean, there is potential for betrayal, which is huge.
Oh, yeah,
you can't cast this if you're somewhat threatening, because I don't think people will hit alliances with you.
Well, then you just lose half your lands.
Yeah.
If you betray somebody with this card, they are never trusting you ever again, and they might key your cards.
It would be worth it, the story you'd get from that.
Oh boy.
Get all their lands.
Oh my god.
I think the other thing that can get salty is if people are BMing or anything if people are being sourpusses at the table, then that could also be salty.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's like way more salty than cards. Like if someone's just being annoying, like
like just trying too hard to politics when they're the threat and deflecting too much. I guess a little bit. I think for all these salty cards, sometimes I could get salty about them if I'm it's a missed expectations, like if I know people we're trying to play like bracket 4 or whatever, and people are bringing whatever they want to play, then I'm never going to get salty about these cards. That's totally fine. You could Rristic me all day. It doesn't matter. It's fine. But if people are just like bringing bad attitudes to the game, that can make much more salty than any card can.
100%.
Like, yeah, there's these old people at my game store that I always avoid. I always tell this anecdote whenever I talk about Salt Lords. One of these players at my old game store was playing Eladamri, Lord of Leaves, which is the Eladamri that gives all of your elves Shroud and Forest Walk and +1/+1. Oh, yeah. And he had a Yavimaya in play. And naturally, I can't target any of his goddamn elves because they all have Shroud. So I cast Volcanic Offering. It does 7 damage to a creature, and then it also blows up a land. And I'm blowing up the Yavimaya because I don't want to get murked by a bunch of elves. And this guy hits me with the, dude, we're really playing this game? You're blowing up my lands? Like, come on. Are we real? Are we serious?
It only hits like up to 2 lands maximum too. It's weird.
Yeah. When I get side eye for like my one of like strip mine in a deck or whatever, and they're like strip mine in casual, it's like, yeah, I have 1 strip mine in my like mono red deck or whatever, so I can blow up a Gaia's Cradle. Like, chill out,
MLD, bro.
You're denying my mana. That Cabal Coffers was worth like 80 swamps. That's not allowed. You can't
True.
do that.
You basically destroyed 80 of my
denying their
swamps.
Yeah, you basically destroyed 80 swamps here when you look at it.
I'm not even doing anything. I haven't even cast a spell. Don't worry, I'm going to torment a torment of Hailfire you next turn, but I haven't done anything, you guys. Leave me alone.
Yeah, by haven't done anything, they mean haven't won the game yet.
Maul told me a story about Z that just like made him look them dead in the eyes. Z and Maul were playing, and Z played a Rristic Study, and then Maul started killing them. And then Z was like, "Why are you attacking me? I haven't even drawn a card off the Rristic Study yet."
Yeah.
And Maul just stared them dead in the eye. Oh.
So we're moving on to the Beseech the Mirror section here. This is where you beseech us for answers. You just have to put mirror, mirror in your comments here on YouTube or on Spotify, and we'll get to some of your questions on the podcast. You could like message us on like Blue Sky or whatever and just like at us. I always forget to say that. Links to our socials are in the description. You can also mirror questions there. Anyway, I thought this was kind of a fun question. This question is from Yushitiv level 100. Mirror, mirror, I let my commander get shuffled back into my desk to ask, what singular card has affected what decks you're interested in the most? And I interpret this question as like, what is like a single card that has really made you go like, oh, this needs to be in a deck. Like this is something, fun or interesting.
I have one. I love Nexus of Becoming, and I think I've become increasingly interested in token copying things recently, and treating that as a form of value that I haven't explored as much so far.
Is this after the game we played in Vegas with Phil and
Niatic?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd been very interested in the card before that, but I do always enjoy seeing other people enjoy it as well because it is one of my favorite cards. But yeah, and I think also the idea that you can change the type of something, like if you have an artifact synergy, you can turn a creature into an artifact. If you have a creature synergy, you can turn an artifact into a creature. Like it just has that flexibility that I find very tantalizing, and it's made me more interested in exploring card types.
Yeah, for me, it's Brainstorm and Brain Surge. Just these cards existing. I love top deck manipulation so much. And so Brainstorm, Brain Surge, the floor for running them in your deck is very low. It's like, do you have enough shuffle effects to really clear the top efficiently? And then, yeah, they're just decent cards. That very decent, very good floor. But the ceiling is super high on these cards in terms of synergy as well. Like in Cormella, I run Brainstorm, Brain Surge, and then I run Keen Duelist to like drain someone for 9 off my huge sorceries. And then in Kinesos, need I even say why I run them in there? It's like Kinesos peels Leviathans off the top of my deck. And in that deck, I even run a Temporal Mastery as like an extra combat spell to just go like, yoink, here we go. I'm going to swing sea monsters at you twice. So yeah, I love Brainstorm, Brain Surge, top deck manipulation, Eladomri, right? Like any deck where I can manipulate the top card of my library and do some stupid stuff with it, I love.
Can I sell you on this card called Carrionet? Carrionet, Commander All-Star 2B, 2 mana black, creature skeleton, it's a 1/1. It doesn't do anything on the board, but if you have it in the graveyard, you could pay 4 mana, 2 and double black, exile this card and target creature unless its controller pays 2. Activate only if this is in your graveyard. You can do this on instant
Not
speed.
even only as a sorcery?
No,
yeah,
you do it at instant speed. And also the exile effect, it exiles itself and the creature, right? The exile effect is only when it resolves. So if you have enough mana, you could potentially get rid of multiple things. So I've been obsessed with this card for a very long time. And I found out that we can make this card even better. It's already amazing because like your opponents will like attack you or whatever. You'll announce, hey, I have carrying it in the graveyard. They'll be like, whatever. And then they'll forget about it. And you'll be like, later on, they'll swing at you. They're tapped out. Boom, you get them. Easy peasy. Free card advantage from the graveyard if you mill it or discard it or whatever. Amazing. Love it. But then I built a Convergent to Dominion deck just because I wanted to play Carrionet, and then it reduces the cost of Carrionet in the graveyard by 2. So you'll have to pay double black, and then it's busted. Then it's actually busted. And it's the best black card ever printed. I rest my case.
Wait, what happens if you tortured existence after activating?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Then you keep it.
Yeah, can you put it back in your hand?
You keep it.
Oh,
Yeah, does it go back in your hand, right?
Yes.
Oh,
It's broken.
oh, I should have been playing this in my crappy Tormod deck. Yo.
Embalmer's Tools also works with it, which reduces it. And shouldn't Crick work with it as well? That's a cost in your, like, to activate an ability.
There's an activated
Wait,
ability.
Crick does work with it.
Is it crit? Yeah.
Yeah, Crick would work with it. So you can lower this down to as little as 4 life,
Mhm.
exile target creature from a graveyard, and then you go like 2 life, Tortured Existence, put it back in my hand before it exiles itself.
And he just board wipe everybody continually. Insane.
Whoa. Now we're
Yeah.
cooking. Wait.
That's sweet. This reminds me a lot of a card.
Yes. I remember that card.
I ran Vengeful Pharaoh in a blue-black. It was a Lantern Control Xanathar Guild Kingpin deck, which really likes to have those one-off, like each player mills a card effects to clear the top of someone's library that you're playing, because it future sights an opponent's library. But the alternative thing you can do is, if you have a Lantern of Insight deck in black, you can Vengeful Pharaoh and then mill it yourself, because it puts itself back on top of your library when you destroy a creature with it. So you can just repeatedly reset it by doing that. Another big thing about Vengeful Pharaoh too as well, though, is any deck that runs an Entomb effect can entomb it into their graveyard.
Yeah,
in Legacy, it will see some play sometimes, because you can just go bam, entomb.
Kill your attacker.
And put it in your graveyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a Yusuf's nickname in high school. I'll let him choose to leave that in or not. I feel like Salvaging Station is the obvious one for me, but I will say Wild Research. That card is very silly and stupid, and I always want to put it in decks. The problem is it's Jeskai, but oh man, instant speed, tutor an enchantment, discard a random, or instant speed, tutor an instant to discard a random is really fun. Tutoring an instant and then discarding a random is so funny because you can go, oh, you're casting something? All right, I'm going to search for negate to counter it, and I may or may not be able to counter it.
I had it in my Zedger deck for a long time. I'm just like the unluckiest person in the world, so I got very fed up with it. But I think like if you can just pair this with like good, like a deck that has good graveyard recursion as well, then you completely negate any of its downside too.
Oh, I would play it with Future Sight, which Future Sight is you can play cards off the top of your library, and then I would play Library of Lang, which is when you discard, you can discard on to the top of your library instead, which means you always got access to it. And the Wild Research was such a sweet package with that because you could Wild Research to tutor up. So if you tutored Wild Research, you could use that to tutor Whir of Invention, which would grab Library of Lang, which would then let you secure, as long as you didn't discard the Whir of Invention at random, you could then secure your Future Sight and get the whole thing set up off of just anything that finds Wild Research.
That's cooking.
You're starting to sound like me, man.
What do you mean? I did this before you played the game.
I know. It's just like, I'm the tutor boy.
I'm named after a tutor. You're a token.
I'm not named after a token. I'm named after a typesetting effect, pal. It's so funny. My Discord, they all have usernames that are all like different tokens. But the thing is until OTJ, there wasn't a 3/3 elk token. Oko made things into 3/3 elks. Kenneth's Transformation.
Kenneth's Transformation, yeah.
Yeah, they're both typesetting effects. So like their username should be like 0/1 Coward off Reprobation, or like 0/1 Insect with Indestructible for Darksteel Mutation. That would be on par.
1/1 Piranha.
I'm not named after a token.
That was a good question. This question comes from Tyler Ruggin, 4 numbers. Mirror, I pay 1 blue black to cast Pot of Greed to trod 2 basic Pokemon cards and ask, what is a card you didn't realize you were playing wrong for a long time?
Ooh, I just had one right now. I just played a game where I got the speed. I played a Start Your Engines card, and I was like, hell yeah, I finally in a game of Commander, I got to max speed. And then our editor chimed in. It's like, Tomer, you only got to speed 3. Max speed is speed 4. And I was like, oh. These cards are garbage, actually. Never mind.
I like your answer. My answer is the same as my previous one, actually. It's the Wild Research thing. It's Library of Lang. So part of that whole package, if you look at like an old printing of it, like an unlimited one or whatever, it says if a card forces you to discard, you may choose to discard to the top of your library. If the discard is random, you may look at the card before deciding where to discard it. That part is no longer part of the card. It doesn't stop random discard. And I just had like an old $1 revised one that had that text. But yeah, it doesn't stop the random part of Wild Research, which actually made my Wild Research deck way worse. And I was very sad by that.
Oh, I have a really good answer actually for this question. So anyone who loves red, specifically red like pinging strategies, knows this to be true.
Oh, that's me and Tomer.
But for the longest time, I did not know this. And it's super confusing when you first learn it. Replacement effects that affect damage are not chosen by you. It is chosen by the person or the owner of the permanent that it's damaging.
Yeah.
So if I have Torbrand in play, which amplifies all damage by 2, and City on Fire, which triples all damage dealt, the person you are lightning bolting chooses the order that it's applied. You don't choose. Your target does.
Which, if they put it in the correct order, they just save a lot of life at that point.
Yeah, like you're getting 4 less damage because in the Torbrand example, because you lightning bolt them, and instead of taking 6 from Torbrand total, the tripled off the Fire Emancipation, what have you, City on Fire. Instead, they're taking the 2. So anyway, just worst fears them first, and then you get to pick everything for them, including how they do the replacement effects.
The answer is always worst fears.
It is. I'm going to jump back like 10 years for mine. When I was a teenager playing my stupid mono black EDH deck, I thought that Necropotence put the cards into your hand after the discard phase. So for like a solid 3 years, I definitely had that card be way more broken than it should have been.
Oh, yeah.
I always had a perma Reliquary Tower out.
Jeez. And then a full turn to just, yeah.
No wonder why you think the card's so bad, right? You just always have one in play.
True.
I've had people go to bat for Reliquary Tower, like, but it's really good with Necropotence. And yeah, sure it is, but also Necropotence is triple black.
Yeah.
So colorless land kind of hurts.
Hey, that's what the Urborg's for. Come on now.
Yep. Dark Ritual it. It's fine.
Tomer, we don't have an outro.
Oh. Wait, I just talk and then you just cut me